If tomorrow the central bank decided to inject billions of dollars into the economy, would your bank account suddenly show more money? The answer might surprise you, because today you are going to discover the real path money takes before it ever reaches your pocket. Money seems simple. We use it every day without thinking. But underneath, it is one of the most powerful and misunderstood forces shaping our lives. Money has three basic jobs. First, it acts as a medium of exchange because it allows us to buy and sell without awkward trades. Second, it serves as a unit of account because it gives us a common measure for prices. And third, it is a store of value because we can save it to spend later. At its heart, money is a tool of trust. You believe that the dollars in your wallet or the numbers in your banking app will buy you food tomorrow, just like they did today. In history, that trust was tied to things you could touch, like gold or silver. Later, governments printed paper that promised to represent those metals. But in 1971, the United States cut the link between the dollar and gold. Since then, the dollar's value has not come from metal, but from something much less visible. The law. It's the government's power to tax, and our collective belief that others will accept it. Here's the twist that shocks most people. The majority of money today is not created by printing presses at the Federal Reserve. It is created by commercial banks every time they make a loan. When a bank approves a $200,000 mortgage, it does not take that money out of someone else's savings account. It simply writes a new number into your account and records the loan on its books. That new deposit is brand new money now circulating in the economy. So what really backs the money we all use? It is not gold in a vault. It is the legal framework of the United States, the court system, and the guarantee that the government will accept your dollars when you pay taxes. Think of it like tickets to a fair. The ticket itself is just a piece of paper, but because everyone inside the fair accepts it for rides and food, it becomes valuable. If banks create most of the money we use, then what does the central bank, the Federal Reserve, actually do? Its role is to steer the system, to set the rules of the game, and to influence how much money banks can and will create. One of its most famous tools, especially during crises, is something called quantitative easing, also known as QE. To understand QE, you need to know about government bonds. Government bond is basically a promissory note from the United States government. When the government needs to borrow money, it issues bonds. Investors, banks, and pension funds buy these bonds, handing money to the government in exchange for the promise of getting it back later with interest. Bonds are considered very safe, and huge amounts of savings are tied up in them. With QE, the Federal Reserve steps into this market and buys massive amounts of those government bonds from banks and other investors. In exchange, it gives them fresh money in the form of bank reserves. This floods the financial system with liquidity, pushes down interest rates, and encourages banks to lend more to households and businesses. The goal is to get money flowing through the economy, when it might otherwise slow to a crawl. But notice the path here. When the Fed creates this new money, it does not appear in your checking account overnight. It first lands in the hands of banks and big investors who held those bonds. They then decide what to do with the money, whether to lend it, invest it, or park it somewhere else. Eventually, it filters down through the economy in the form of loans, jobs, or higher asset prices. But that journey is neither instant nor equal. This explains why the first people to touch new money often benefit the most. Banks, large corporations, and wealthy investors can spend before prices adjust. By the time ordinary families feel the effects, some prices may already be higher. Economists call this uneven timing the Cantillon effect. It is like being at a party where snacks are served in the kitchen first. The people near the kitchen eat plenty while they are still fresh. By the time the plates make it to the living room, there is less left and the flavor has changed. Now let us talk about what happens when too much money is created. If the supply of money expands faster than the supply of goods and services, prices go up. That is inflation. For savers, it feels like your dollars are shrinking in your hands. Maybe last year, $20 filled your grocery bag, and today it barely covers a few items. Inflation does not always hit all goods equally. Sometimes it shows up more in houses, stocks, or other assets. That makes people who already own those assets richer, while leaving behind those still trying to buy them. On the other hand, creating too little money can be just as damaging. If banks stop lending and money in circulation shrinks, the economy slows. Businesses cut back, jobs are lost, and prices may fall. At first, falling prices sound nice, cheaper gas and cheaper food, but deflation makes debts heavier. Your mortgage payment stays the same, but your paycheck might shrink. Paying debts becomes harder, defaults rise, and the downturn feeds on itself. History shows that these spirals can create deep recessions. There are two surprising truths most people never hear. First, most of the money in existence is not physical cash, but numbers typed into accounts by private banks making loans. Second, while the Federal Reserve can create reserves instantly, those reserves do not land directly in everyone's pockets. Getting money into households requires government decisions like stimulus checks or public spending programs. That is why the path of money is as much about politics and policy as it is about economics. So what can you do with this knowledge? Remember that cash is useful and safe, but it loses value during inflation. Diversifying, keeping some savings, but also investing in assets, skills, and opportunities can protect you. Paying attention to how credit expands and contracts helps you spot bubbles and downturns. And as a citizen, knowing how money really works helps you see which policies truly support people and which mostly support institutions. Money is not just paper, coins, or numbers on a screen. It is a contract of trust written by human hands. Understanding who holds the pen, who gets the new money first, and how it finally makes its way into your life gives you power. Power to make wiser choices, to protect your family, and to see the financial world with clearer eyes. Thank you for joining me today. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Together, we can make finance a force for good.